What's up guys, we are back with another Borderlands 4 build video, and in this one we're diving into a melee HEXBLADE Deadringer VEX build by Ratore. It doesn't use bleed or the infamous crit knife and instead focuses on maximizing melee attack power whilst having ranged melee access through Haruspecs, where VEX can throw a phase dagger from her offhand. It's also great at building up Groundbreaker, but in this one, this specialization is optional in case you're a player who doesn't enjoy just how powerful Groundbreaker is. If you don't want to use Groundbreaker, bosses can just be a bit more of a fight, where you actually see the fight play out rather than just disintegrating them. This build also makes use of Phase Covenant through our gun's elements to enhance our final damage through elemental multipliers, and if you're using Groundbreaker, this is also attuned to VEX's current element. The HEXBLADE build is both a true melee masterpiece but also adaptable, where you can switch to Spectres for certain unreachable bosses and encounters, and also make use of Wither and Cover. You're going to have insane face tanking levels of sustain, so when you're in the thick of it, you'll be slashing and stabbing your way through endless mobs without too much trouble. It plays like most Borderlands melee builds with a bit of a unique Haruspecs flavour. It has the highs and lows of all melee playstyles, and if you're getting frustrated with some parts, you can just Groundbreak your way through if you need to. So you'll want to summon Reapers based on elemental matchups, and with enough cooldown you'll be able to replace these with new ones. Just make sure to resummon the Reapers every once in a while to keep up the regen effects from cover. You can cycle Dark Pact to keep a group up throughout an entire zone, but apart from that, spam and stab with your melee key, use Haruspecs and Pincushion to deal with enemies at range, and swap between your heavyweight shield Nova elements too, depending on the area and depending on those big spicy bosses. Now let's take a look at Ratore's build page here, and you can see here that there are 3 variants of the build. His traditional HEXBLADE setup is more lenient when you don't have the perfect cooldown gear. It loses out on a bit of damage but still remains a consistently reliable setup to play around with. You then have an even higher damage HEXBLADE setup here, and then the no Haruspec setup if you don't want any ranged and just want to be a pure melee Andy. So let's stick with the standard HEXBLADE build for this video then, as this is the typical way to play it, and let's take a closer look into the skill tree. We're going to be going for an almost entirely blue tree setup here, starting with 5 points in Fell Inscriptions, 5 in Cursed Blade, and 1 in Extra Curse to base this build around its melee playstyle. We're also taking 5 in Grave Quickening and 1 in Blood Sacrifice. We then have 5 points in Recurrence, 5 in Haruspecs to give us those phase daggers to throw, and 1 in Pincushion to upgrade that phase dagger into a Fan of Knives. We'll also take 5 in Reverberations here before moving over to the right, with 5 in Obedient Fiends, 5 in Ancient Rites, and 1 in Diner. We then finish the tree with 5 points in the red tree with Blood is Magic. Blood is Magic has extreme value here because it feeds damage into almost everything in our build. The only thing it isn't really boosting is VEX's own non-Haruspecs melee attacks. Blood Sacrifice and Grave Quickening allow you to keep summoning Reapers as needed to deal with elemental matchups. Recurrence is huge because Reaper's melee attacks stack it super quickly for us, as do our own attacks, so this feeds back into more action skill and melee damage. Reverberations is also a ridiculously powerful passive which acts as one of the few multipliers we have access to. Cursed Blade and Extra Cursed are strong because our melee damage applies the gun, and then the gun damage triggers it, which includes our minions. Reapers and Spectres can trigger it individually too, and it gets boosted by action skill and skill damage. With Haruspecs and Pincushion, if you're wanting to play with and spam Groundbreaker, you don't really need these 2 specs, but if you want to have that true melee experience, they feel amazing to play with. Then we have our Augments and Capstone, Dark Pact, Hellish Harvest, and Coven. This combo gives you a ton of survivability and damage and durability for your clones. You can use Dark Pact as an emergency save the Reapers button, or use it offensively as a power-up. So that's the skill tree setup and a bit of detail on some of the most important parts, but now let's take a look at some gear. Now Ratore recommends that you take 2 to 3 weapons that have the Mali-1 licensed element switch. These can basically be any weapons really, as long as this is included. You can equip them in any order you prefer, but try to organize their modes to cover all the elemental matchups for Deadringer. For your final weapon slot, you can go for a powerful gun simply for fight for your life situations. For your Repkit, triple bypass with either plus 30% all damage dealt or 40% melee damage is perfect. But purple options with a combo of 100% cooldown rate and either of 30% all damage dealt or 40% melee damage are solid alternatives too. For Ordnance, Slippy gives us yet another way of accessing melee, and it's a safe way to burst vile enemies and some other dangerous close range mobs. This applies Cursed Blade and will be attuned to VEX's current element due to Phase Covenant. For shields, we have Heavyweight, which is another key factor in this setup, which helps mitigate the armor loss and helps us spam melee at will because of our class mod, Teen Witch. So look for every elemental variant that has the mini Nova effect on it. Speaking of Teen Witch, this is the star of the show here. It sustains both our damage and survivability perfectly through its legendary effect. You'll get a fixed lifesteal roll, but for your remaining passives you can look for anything that helps take the damage or survival that little bit further. Well, that pretty much covers all the important stuff you need to help you get this insanely unique melee VEX HEXBLADE build online. But if you want to read more about the nitty gritties and check out Ratore's recommended firmware, specialization and options, click the link below and check out the full written guide. You can also check out Ratore's own YouTube channel for more melee VEX content, including his own build video for this very setup. Thanks for watching guys, enjoy the build and we'll catch you in the next one. Take care.